And welcome to ESO Daily. I am your host, Mystic Raven. All right, guys, I apologize about the sound of my throat or voice. Allergies are starting to kick in. It's been a crazy weather, so I'm not sick. It's just, the drainage from seasons and the allergies. I have allergies really bad. So I do apologize about my voice. Anyways, today I'm going to be discussing the Templar Healer, do or don'ts. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a little background story, what prompted me to do this video. Now, a lot of people want me to do healing tutorial videos because I play every class as healers in this game. I play every whatever, but look, I've just become, I'm more known for healing builds and healing guides in this game. So, yeah, I'm like, okay, I was in a guild workshop last night, and one of my fellow guild members completely had a lot of misconceptions about what he's been told about Templar healers and what should be applied. Now, I understand why a lot of people have been whatever about Templar healers. Templar healers are very strong. They're very flexible. A lot of options and, rearrangements that you can do in the configuration with Templar healers. Okay, I'll check out the comment in a minute. But there are some things that I don't prefer and I do prefer to do. And I will be going over that today with you guys step by step. We will also be running daily, just normal because, the event's still going on. I want to try to, cash out on that. But let's go over my first configuration into my gear. Now, gear is pretty standard for me. So I use Spell Power Cure and I use Worm. I also have Mending. So on the Templar, I always keep a set of Mending. I keep a set of Worm. And I usually will keep, I don't usually, use Sanctuary on the Templar. You can. Like I said, flexible. Cags is good. But usually it's between Mending and Worm. It's pretty standard for reasons. But you guys notice something? I'm using one heavy piece, right? I never use like the Master Staff or anything like that. And if you wanted to, you could. But let's go over to my character sheet and explain why I don't. Now, you'll see my max health at 19,505. Of course, that can be adjusted to whatever, but I usually stay between 19, around 19 something. Why? Because I anticipate, usually even in a trial scenario, which I don't do trials a lot, I do them, get the gear and get out. But usually I can anticipate my, with Eben to be pushed up to about 1,000. So I like to keep a comfort zone due to mechanics. I also use one heavy. I've always done that since one Tamriel because of the Undaunted passive. So when I go into the Undaunted passive, because I'm double set stacked, right? So Worm and Spell Power Cure are both static in my configuration. Now Mending, I can, afford to go ahead and back bar it to get the effect, right? So I can afford to do that with the Templar. It's very easy. You can even do it with other configurations. So then you could use something like the Master Staff. But if you're running two statics, you'd have to give up your Undaunted passive. The Undaunted passive down here allows me to keep a 4% bonus towards all my max stats. That's my max magicka and that's my max health. If I decided to take off the head, let's hypothetically say I just remove it and I go back into the character sheet, now I'm losing close to 800 health, right? So that's a personal call. It's not a make or break, but for me personally, I much prefer to keep the Undaunted passive. Why? Because I'm getting some to the extra max magicka and I'm also getting that extra health boost. So I always use one heavy. Also, when I take a look, and a lot of people are like, well, 4%, well, that's not really all that much. Well, the major reason being that you're getting the boon is because of these passives right here. Now, I can put that into resistance if I wanted to, but increase health recovery and increase max health by 2%. So I get an extra 2% on top of the 2% or the 1% gain. So that's why I'm losing out on that. Okay, so just to rectify. Now, another thing that you guys will never see on my Templar Healer is Ellie Drain. I don't use Ellie Drain on Templars. Other healers, yes. If people aren't running whatever. Templar, I never run Ellie Drain. I have it, I don't run it. Why don't I run Ellie Drain? This was what sparked the controversy. Okay, I use Radiant Aura, right? I don't use Ellie Drain, I use Radiant Aura. Radiant Aura applies the minor magic steal. Except, here's the kicker. When I use this ability, it applies to all enemies around me for 18 seconds, right? And its radius is 28 meters. So every target gets hit with this. Boom. That magnifies and makes the magic steal way more effective. That's the nice thing about Templars, is their utilities. They're still one of the top utility healers. They're not the most powerful healer, but when it comes to utility, the skill like Radiant Aura becomes very, very much effective. Now, a lot of people could argue that it's at the cost of Magicka, but when I go down in the destructive staff and I go into Elemental Drain and I'll unlock it, and you only see it's at 1, it applies Magic Steal. It's the same thing, 300, but this is 300 per. And with the Ellie Drain, I have to apply to every single said target. Now, another person said, well, it gives Major Breach. Well, when the tank uses Pierce Armor, it applies Major Breach regardless. So for me personally, this is a wasted slot. It's a wasted ability because I already have an effect that's going to give me the Magic Drain for an AoE effect. Okay? So I don't use Ellie Drain on a Templar. I'm sorry, I don't. Another thing I don't necessarily do, and you can do to choose, I never slot Luminous Shards and Energy Orbs on the same healer. If I have Luminous Shards, I'm going to get the utility, right? For the synergy, to restore resources. But if I use Energy Orbs, it has a healing effect. But the main thing about it is they both share the same global cooldown. So it's literally wasting another bar space. So I usually decide, now this is me personally, am I going to use Luminous Shards or am I going to use Energy Orbs? Because Energy Orbs can still be very useful, especially in long-range scenarios where I have to keep distance. If I have to play a little bit more up close, that or in between, I feel like the Blazing Shard or the Luminous Shards are a lot better use. But if I need extra healing at a long range capability, the Healing Orbs, Energy Orbs come in handy. So you can switch out between, but I never run them both. Why? Same global cooldown. Okay, so I feel like it's just a waste of space for that. So let me go ahead and check out the comments real quick, and then I'll continue my little tutorial or whatever you want to call it. So, morning, David, Robert, morning. Hey, so your vids have been a great with me getting more into the game and having better understanding. Finally hit 50 on my Warden since I last saw your debate video, and so far loving it. Great, thank you, David. I'm very happy that you are. Now, another thing that I use that you won't see a lot of healers use is Purifying Light. Okay, so I use Purifying Light. Very, very important for me as a Templar healer to use this ability. Its healing is really not that great, to be honest with you, because it's only healing for 3,335 every 2 seconds. That's still pretty good. That's about 9k. But the thing about it is it drops right in front of the tank, and it has an AoE effect. So anything within that vicinity will receive each healing effect. But that's not typically why I run Purifying Light. It's a boon because it has the healing effect, right? But it's one of the only Dawn Wrath's abilities that I can slot without compromising my rotation. But I need it to be here, right? I need it to be here. This is why I want the Illuminate. Casting a Dawn Wrath's ability gains me the minor sorcery for me and my group for 20 seconds, increasing, guess what? Our spell damage by 5%. Unless you run a Magplar that's dealing damage, right? You want the Templar Healer to apply this effect because it's increasing your magic's DPS and consequently your healing. So I can stack the effect. I can get the potion for the major sorcery and then apply the minor sorcery to me and my party members just by casting this one ability that's going to give another healing effect. But a majority of Templar healers out there fail to realize the importance of this ability. Instead, they would rather use what? Wall of Elements, because they want to go ahead and apply the off balance. But if you fail to use this ability, you're losing an additional 5% towards the DPS of your mag tunes anyways. And it's one of the only one of the only ways. There's only like 2 ways to get minor sorcery, and this is one of them. So you really, really, really do, as a Templar, want to use this to buff your party members. Okay? But go check out their vids, because majority of them don't use it. Such a shame. Such a shame. Now this could be the arguable point here, because I will usually slot Healing Ward, but in a trial, I don't really need it. So if I wanted to, I could move the Purifying Light over here, and then if they wanted me to run the Unstable Wall, I could. But here's the deal. The trait values of each of your weapons, when you deslot and you put a charged weapon on a Templar, guess what happens to its healing capability, its healing effects? They go down for one said effect that has a cooldown. One set. To me, I would rather do it on one of my DPS, so my healer doesn't lose what? Healing functionality, right? Because Nirnholm is going to be top dog because of the stacked spell power, right? Then it goes powered, right? So Nirnholm, powered. That's what you use for your healing traits. Those 2 usually specifically. Now you can go infused and you can go with different enchantments, and that would be a big boon to you as well. But a lot of people want to use charge on the lightning staff. But as you guys can see on the lightning staff, I'm using healing effects. So and DPS effects like the luminous shards and stuff. If I slot that, my effects will go down. Just something to keep in mind. I'm not saying what is. I'm asking do's or don'ts. Simple. Combat prayer. A lot of 4-mans, they skip this. This is pretty known to use combat prayer if you're going to be a serious healer. Every class healer can use combat prayer, and the biggest boon to it is the minor berserk buff. When you apply the minor berserk, it increases the damage of your allies by 8%. That's a stacked buff. It's a buff that I cannot necessarily afford to let drop off. I might not keep 100% uptime based on what I'm seeing as a healer, but usually to reapply this is very, very important. Ritual of Retribution. Nice thing also about the Templar healers is this ability right here, because it has a cleanse affected in its capability. So, but unfortunately, it's also applied to synergy. So that can be on a GCD. So keep in mind, if we're on a GCD, Purify has a better effect because you don't have to hit a synergy to get the cleanse. So it becomes questionable depending on the content. Majority of the time you can just heal through, use this ability, and then you have a cleanse. If you're any other class healer, now you have to ask yourself, if you don't want a global cooldown, do we go ahead and take mutagen? All right, so mutagen also has a cleanse into it, but it's 1 and it's a single target, where Ritual of Retribution is 2 and Purification in the support passives is also 2. Now, another thing you're going to also see in my Templar healer that I'm going to do is put Radiant Aura on the back bar. I never put it on the front. Sometimes I will, but if I have Barrier slotted, this will always go in the back. Why? Because I'm also going to get Minor Intellect. Minor Intellect's going to increase my Magicka recovery by 10%. But when I go over here, you'll see instead I'm using Barrier as a slotted effect. Now, most of the time I use Warhorn. But why do I slot Barrier? Now, I do have to level this, as you guys can see. But why do I slot Barrier? Why is it important for healers to slot an ability, a shielding ability? Well, one thing, it mitigates damage, right? So if I don't use Warhorn and I need it, I can go and get the Morph and get a Reviving Barrier, which applies a healing effect with the shield system. But the biggest one is Magical Aid. So if you see, I get another 10% on what? My magic recovery. So I got 10% increased on this bar right, towards my recovery. And then on the back bar with this, I don't get the reduction of recovery because I have the Radiant Aura. So that's how I separate the two. Now you can use other ultimates, but keep in mind, you'll lose that 10% into your whatever, and having this double slotted isn't worth it. Now, another thing you could do, a lot of people could say, you could take off one of the inner lights, because you can use potions to gain your major prophecy. However, the one thing that you will lose by deslotting this is your max magicka by 5%, and consequently, yep, that's right, it's going to affect your healing capabilities. Okay, so just a couple of things, important things to remember. And like I said, I mean, there's a lot of flexibility to the Templar, but there's things that I question, like do's or don'ts. Simple. I've seen the Somerset house. I want the pirate ship one. Nice. Yeah, I wonder if that boat house is going to be 16,000 crowns. I have no idea. They said there was going to be one that wasn't going to be a crown shop, but I imagine that one probably will be. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to queue up some of the dailies just so I can run them, kind of go over the rotations, show you guys how I play heal. They'll be just normals. I could do vets, but I really don't care, to be honest with you. I just want these. I just want these Dire Frost. So we got Spindle Clutch 2 and Dire Frost that I wanted to say. Falkirth Hold. Yeah. Alright. So dungeon. Specifics. Let me change my role. You'll notice I never double Q. Get these ones out of the way first. And I can do Falkirth Hold. But yeah, so it definitely sparked. Now, here's the thing. And another thing I wanted to talk about with a lot of people complained during Morrowind about the major mending. Okay, guys. Another very, 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 very important topic here. Right? Is Essence Drain. Right? You gain major mending for 3 seconds after completing a fully charged heavy attack. Okay? So you gain major mending just for doing a heavy attack. When I go into restoring focus, right, I want to say it's right here. Sacred Ground. Cleansing Ritual, Rune Focus, Rite of Passage, Area Effects, and up to 4 seconds after you gain minor mending. So you gain the minor just for laying down, you know, your Ritual Retribution. And the minor and the major stack. Prior to that, you just gain major, right? Which was crazy because 2 major mendings don't stack. But major and minor do. Major and minor stack. So it wasn't like a nerf, you know, per se. Hold 1 second. Alright, I'm back. I had to prioritize my chat. But yeah, so like I said, it was just kind of crazy, like how players, you know, they kind of misunderstand a lot of things with Templar Healers because they're told, oh, well, we need this, and oh, we need that. Now look, now you guys will see that all the magic drains are applied. That's why I don't use Ellie Drain. Every one of them now has a magic steal versus single target. It's just ludicrous. Then how many healers use it? How many Templar healers use it? Probably like less than 5%. Now look, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to open up. I want that debuff. That's a buff to my party members. Now remember, this thing has a pretty good radius to it. I don't need keys, so I'm not really worried about vets. I don't need gear either.
For a fine sight. Residents of Direfrost Keep appear to have been fleeing, but now they're frozen in time, trapped in this icy tomb for all eternity.
Now, Templar, consequently speaking, Templar was the last healer I did because it's novice for me, for a player like me. My first was Nightblade and then DK, so I started off with the more difficult healers. Once again, now you notice also I don't use Breath of Life a lot. And the magic drain's always up. It's pretty, I mean, it's on normal, but literally I have like this whole thing like mapped down with Templar Healer. I never run out of magicka the way I set my build up either or anything like that. Like I said, that minor sorcery is huge. My job isn't damage, it's buff. Buff, buff, and heal. Okay, I'm getting it. Thank you. Might fill up my bags. Whatever. Oh, you see, I wasn't even close and it got the magic minor, whatever. Want to reapply, keep those buffs up. It's fucking easy. Even on, I mean, even on vet, man. Templar healing. If you do Templar right, you'll be good. But you forget the littlest things about buffing your party members. So I did a vid, and this little trial healer didn't have any buffs going on. None of the stuff that he was supposed to. No combat prayer. No, you know, luminous shards. Nothing. He just wanted to come in and try to be a badass. But the problem of it is, fail to realize, by me putting damaging effects and worrying about DPS, I'm doing what? I'm not making my dedicated DPS more effective. So that's the one thing I need to do. As me in this role, I need to make my DPS more effective. I always stay dedicated to my builds. Now, like I said, Templar flexibility. Nightblade has kind of certain limitations with its configuration due to, funnel health and how it scales damage on heal. But nice thing about it, there's a lot of things you can kind of stack. Dude wants to do the friggin' whatever. The tank's taking off the other way. Now, if I wanted to, I can always hit that pot, stack the effects, and my healing goes up considerably. Get that on there. Like I said, you don't see me spam Breath of Life really ever. Look, when I switch targets, they all have Magic Drain. Ellie Drain, I'd have to be spamming constantly. Yes, it's at the cost of Magicka, right? It is, but it's way more productive. A lot more productive to use the Radiant Aura versus the friggin' Ellie Drain on a friggin' Templar. One of the most powerful group utilities wasted. And they wonder why I look down on them. I also don't roll with 2 Templars in trials when I do trials. So I never get to play this dude as much as the other healers. If we have a Templar, I'd rather pick up a Warden, Nightblade, DK, Sork, any other healer. I don't run 2 Templars in trials if I'm healing. Get those buffs up. Now look, when I see ads, that's when I throw it down especially, because that's a multiplied effect as well. I never spam anything either on my rotation. If I keep my rotation solid, the heals come, but like I said, I use Breath of Life in between the rotation to offset the difference. Same thing in trial.
Frozen souls will haunt this place forever.
Gonna reapply. So like I said, I don't need to be close. Do my heavy attack, get that major mending up. Reapply the debuff. Reapply the combat. Hit the war horn. Keep that minor sorcery up. It's pretty friggin' cake. Definitely pretty amazing, man. Like I said, I won't use it. I don't need Ellie Drain on the Templar. You know, tell them to put the crack pipes down. Okay, let me check it out. That's... Oh boy, yes, so Daily is talking about Templar healers. I have every healer. My favorite normal dungeon, Marauder. Non, because it's shit. As far as what, Tamer? I'm trying to figure out what shit. Question. Watching you inspired me to make a Templar healer. Oh, cool. Never thought about the ward skill. Yeah, like I always use ward, right? Yeah, it's really nice. You know, I was going to finish. I struggled to go back to car, and you give me a tick for £5. I don't know. You don't need to spam Breath of Life unless you're trying to keep Mustang alive in PvP. When she leaps into it, yeah, she goes all out, doesn't she? Is there a video build posted somewhere in my healer, my heal things? If you go to videos, the link, Mark, I have like my build videos up there, and you can go to healers. So I have healers, tanks, DPS. DPS are situation like separated, but healers are categorized together, and so are tanks. Thanks. Off to go learn the good stuff. Yeah, thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. I appreciate it, brother. I appreciate it. So, yeah, like I told, like when we were discussing that last night, it was just like the discussion. The discussion was, oh, okay, well, put Ellie Drain. I'm like, well, on what? I'm like, DK healer, Sork healer. Oh, no, the Templar. See, I knew the event ended. They said they extended it. And I was like, I don't think so. Someone said they extended that event. And I'm like, because I was grinding for that worm cult. I didn't get it, but all the pieces I wanted. But I ended up getting that chest. So I was like, oh, bank, man. I need that shit. So I'm just going to destroy this. So, and I told him, I said, I don't think it's extended. I don't think it is. And sure as shit, it's not. So the event is over. So the event is done. And I knew somebody had said they had done something about that, but there it is. I turned it into daily and I didn't get it. So, yeah, stinks, but oh well. But yeah, the Templar healer, very, very flexible, right? And like I said, there are certain things like do's and don'ts to me. This is always a do. That's a do. But healing ward, not necessarily. I can slot purifying light over here. And if they wanted me to run a wall, sure, I could do that. Am I going to use charge trait over Nirnholm or powered? No. Why? Because any healing effect that would be on this bar is going to go down. So that becomes question, because I have all the other healing effects over here. Even if I put the retribution, I could do that. Then I could maybe run charge, but is it worth it to lose, the effect? To me, like I said, I would rather use one of my DPS with it. But remember, the global cooldown applies. So even if I have like 4 DPS that run wall, usually your off balance is up consistently anyways. It just applies faster and keeps the cooldown, the global cooldown, at a minimal when you do that with a charge trait. So even with the changes configured, the charge trait will keep the uptime, the proc, up at one time, but you only need 1 DPS with it to run a charge with the wall. But a lot of DPS are running flame. But if you're a high elf still do a lot more damage with the lightning versus the fire. But Dunmers do a lot more damage with the fiery wall than the lightning. So, but once again, are you trying to apply the off balance? Questionable. So it's just the question. And remember the the passive from the destruction staff when you have an ability slotted, ancient knowledge. So that comes into play, how you set up your rotation on the bar. But yeah, so this is pretty much, the way I set up my build. Like I said, there are some flexible points to it, but there are some things that I do, and there's certain things that I don't. Each healer is going to be different. This is true. But like I said, me not putting on minor sorcery, unacceptable as a healer. I should be running it. If I don't, there should be a Magplar in there. If there's a Magplar DPS, which prior to some of these updates weren't, then I gimped my group by not putting this effect to apply minor sorcery. Because it doesn't stack, it'll reset. So, questionable. Very questionable. And like I said, why am I not going to use Radiant Aura when a tank's going to apply Major Breach? That's why they justified Ellie Drain. And it's single target application, and this is AoE. I don't know, man. I don't know. These guys claim min-max, and I would definitely say they're not on the ladder. They're definitely not on the ladder. So, hey. Just saying. Just saying, man. Alright, so let me check out the comments and I'm going to wrap it up. Gina posted in the forums it was extended till the 23rd. Then why didn't I get a freaking coffer? Wasn't I supposed to get a coffer? Check my inventory. I did. I didn't get it. Did I? Oh, I did! Okay, cool. So it is true. Cool, cool, cool. Thank you, Robert. Thank you. Yeah, see, I can be wrong, and I can be... So I heard that yesterday. Someone said it got extended, and I was panicked. I was like, no, no, no. I need the worm coat. I need the worm coat. I'm farming like crazy. I'm going, like, completely nuts trying to get my worm coat in. It was insane how much I was having to, like... I was like, I have to get it. I have to do it. I have to. It's crazy. So... But yeah, I'm going to do my writs, and I'm going to, you know, switch out, and I got a bunch of things to do. Also, I'm coming out with a new Sork PvP build. It's a hybrid build. It's going to be very interesting how I devised the build. I really like it, especially because I was like, I could take advantage of this passive, like, in so many ways. So that's kind of what I, you know, went around with this new build config. So it's a hybrid build. So it is a hybrid. And I will get into that either later tonight or tomorrow with that build. And it's really, really nice. But I will do do's and don'ts on every class healer. But for Templar, very flexible, very interchangeable. There are certain points that you can apply, but certain things, in my honest opinion, is definitely don'ts. Like I said, I can go ahead with the energy orbs. Would I sacrifice... Would I put both on with Luminous Shards and Orbs? No. Why? Simple. Same global cooldown. Okay? There it is. And Ritual Retribution. Really great. Heal with the cleanse. Keep in mind, synergy applied. If there are certain mechanics that the synergy has, the cleanse has to be applied prior to synergy, to me, purification's a good option. Okay? That switches up my rotation a little bit. Always a must for me. Purifying Light, always. This is optional. Once again, Healing Ward. And if I were to deslot that, then it leaves me maybe the opportunity to put a wall down or something like that. But I personally will not use a charge trait to do so. Why? Takes my effects down. Puts them down a lot. And as far as the healer, the one thing I can't afford to do, I can afford to sacrifice a little DPS for the gain to justify DPS. But for healing, if I lose and I have to push 2 buttons versus 1 because I'm losing on a healing effect, now I can't heal over, and some people will argue that, and that is true. So, to each their own. I don't do charged on my healer. So I can sacrifice maybe an ability to use it, but whatever. And once again, I don't use Ellie Drain on Templar. If I have a Templar, matter of fact, if I have a Templar and he knows what he's doing, Ellie Drain becomes questionable. Another ability, and let's talk about this ability really quick, and when I wrap it up, is Force Ssiphon. Force Ssiphon offers the minor lifesteal as well. Unfortunately, the cast makes it very hard to manage. 1.5 second cast is almost impossible for most healers to pull off, because in bet and especially trial scenarios, 1.5 seconds will get somebody killed. I really wish ZOS would look at this and redo this, maybe extend the cost of the ability at the reduction of maybe 0.5 seconds and take off the second. I really wish they would. And then maybe with the morph, if you take the lifesteal, then add an entire second to that effect. That would be more manageable, because unfortunately at 1.5 seconds, it becomes very hard to pull off throughout a very hectic scenario. So just food for thought. Once again, though, this would also be single target application like Ellie Drain, and unfortunately Ellie Drain has more application than Force Ssiphon, even though it has a healing effect. So just the way it is. All right, guys, I'm going to let you guys go. I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to once again thank everybody for their support. If anybody has any questions or comments, please post below. I know, Mystic never knows what he's talking about, supposedly, and supposedly I'm misleading all of you. Whatever. But I will continue to try to help those who are seeking it. Once again, thank you so much. I'm Mystic Raven, the CSO Daily, and once again and always, have a nice day.